Hello dear students, welcome back to EDUHUNT video lecture series. We have seen how a male gametophyte develops from androecium or from a flower. Now let us see how the development of female gametophyte takes place. The female reproductive organ of the flower is gynoecium. And this gynoecium looks like this. It has three parts. The basal part, the swollen, broad basal region is called the ovary. This is the basal region of the gynoecium. Extension is like this. This is the tip. The tip is called the stigma. It is the narrow extension of the ovary is style. Basal region is the ovary and the entire structure is called the pistil. Pistil or the gynoecium. Gynoecium. In the ovary, there are ovules. This is the actual structure of gynoecium. What we are seeing here, this this is the ovary. And in this ovary, I just now shown, this is the ovule. This is an ovule. And in that ovule, if we enlarge this ovule, it looks like this. Anyway, this is a rough sketch of ovule. The apical region where the integuments are the covering of the ovule, where the integuments leave a small opening called the micropyle. And opposite to the micropyle, there is a region called chalaja. This is the ovule. These are integuments. Integuments are the layers which cover the ovule. Integuments. And the entire ovule is made up of a tissue called nucellus. Nucellus. The entire structure, the entire ovule is filled with nucellus. And the stalk of the ovule is called the funicle. Funicle is the stalk of the ovule, where we have seen the stalk of the flower, that is called the pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. And funicle is the stalk of the ovule. Ovule is placed here. The actual position of ovule is in the ovary, and this is the ovule. There are different types of ovules. I just draw the anatropous, orthotropous ovule, that is a straight ovule. And in this ovule, from the nucellus near the micropyle region, megaspore mother cell gets differentiated. Megaspore mother cell. Only single megaspore mother cell gets differentiated from the nucellus near the micropylar region. And this megaspore mother cell which is a diploid cell undergoes, like we have seen microspore mother cell, like that the megaspore mother cell also undergoes reduction division, and obviously 4 haploid megaspores will be produced. 4 haploid megaspores, and out of 4 haploid megaspores, for example, this is the megaspore mother cell, undergoes division and produce the 4 haploid megaspores. Out of 4, these these 3, the uppermost 3 will undergo degeneration, and the only one that is functional will undergo, the nucleus of this functional megaspore undergoes divisions thrice. If one undergoes one division, it will give rise to 2 nuclei. If it undergoes twice, 4 nuclei. Thrice, 8 nuclei. That megaspore mother cell, the functional megaspore mother cell, undergoes division. Three mitotic divisions, and this leads to the formation of the first division will give rise to 2 cells, not the 2 cells, 2 nuclei. Two nuclei in the same cell itself, and these 2 nuclei once again undergo one more division, 4 nuclei, and these 4 nuclei undergoes one more division. How many nuclei are there? 8 nuclei. 8 nuclei. And these are 8 nuclei. Out of 8 nuclei, if we turn this in a vertical direction, it looks like this. And out of 8, one from the micropylar region moves down, that is at the center, and one from chalajal region also moves to the center, and at the center these 2 nuclei, they unite together, they fuse to form a fusion product called the secondary nucleus or the central cell, which is a diploid one because 2 nuclei got fused. Now we have 3 nuclei at the micropylar region and remaining 3 at the chalajal end here. If we rub this, if we draw the colorful picture, it will be, now we have 3 nuclei, they form the 3 cells at the micropilar end, that is called the egg apparatus. And the 3 cells at the chalajal region called the antipodals. Cells means they have a nucleus. Along with this nucleus, they'll have a cytoplasm and a wall, cell wall. The central cell, this is the central cell, which is a diploid one as at the central region. And the egg apparatus consists of 3 cells. Out of 3, the central one is the egg, actual male female gamete, and the surrounding adjacent to this egg cell there are 2 cells called the synergids. They help in during fertilization, they show the path to the growing pollen tube. Now we are here. These 2 polar nuclei, they get fused to form the secondary nucleus, and this is the megagamete or the egg or the female gamete, and this is now called the female gametophyte or the embryo sac. This is the pink color structure. What I am showing you is the female gametophyte or the embryo sac. Okay, embryo sac. The cells of the embryo sac are haploid except the central cell, but because 2 nuclei fused to form the structure, central cell. Now, during the pollination, the pollen grain falls on the stigma. The pollen grain, these are the pollen grains, I'll show you. Pollen grains, these are the pollen, the yellow color structures are the pollen grains. These are the pollen grains. These pollen grains, when fall on the stigma, here they fall on the stigma and they germinate on the functional stigma. Only they germinate on the compatible stigma. That means if they belong to the same species, then only the pollen grains will germinate. Otherwise, there will be reactions between the stigma and the pollen grain. The stigma will not allow the pollen grain to germinate. It is called incompatibility. But only the compatible pollen grains develop and germinate on the stigma, functional stigma. After germination, what is meant by germination? Germination of pollen grain is nothing but formation of a germ tube. Germ tube or the pollen tube. The pollen tube forms, gives rise to the pollen grain. It produces the, from here, the pollen grain will germinate like this. This is the pollen tube where the germ pore, I have seen, I have shown you the germ pore where a very thin layer of intine is present only. Through that regions, thin areas, the pollen tube, the intine protrudes like a tube called the pollen tube. And this pollen tube carries the male gametes, the pollen tube. And through this pollen tube, the male gametes will reach the ovule. And in the ovule, what we have? We have embryo sac. In that embryo sac, we have a female gametophyte. In that, female gamete is there, and one of the male gametes, the first male gamete will fuse with the female gamete, forms the zygote, and the second one fuses with the central cell, which is a diploid one. This fusion is called the triple fusion because already two nuclei fused before fertilization, and after fertilization one more, the second male gamete will fuse with the central cell, which is a diploid one. Now the central cell becomes triploid. Now it is called the primary endosperm nucleus. Yes, this is the primary endosperm nucleus, which is resulted after triple fusion. And the egg fuses with the first male gamete, which is traveled through the pollen tube. Pollen tube gets the two male gametes, and after insertion of the pollen tube into the embryo sac, the first male gamete fuses with the egg cell. Now the egg cell becomes diploid because with the fusion of the male gamete, now it is called not the egg cell, it is called the zygote. Zygote, which is a diploid one. Primary endosperm nucleus is a triploid one, whereas zygote is a diploid one, because zygote is the fusion product of male and female gamete, and primary endosperm nucleus is the fusion product of secondary cell, which is a diploid one, and the second male nucleus. That is why it is a triploid one. And this is the seed. This is the seed. The seed consists of the seed coat, the ovule integument. After fertilization, it forms the seed coat. Ovule coat transforms into seed coat, and the zygote will divide and forms embryo. This is the embryo. This is the embryo. The seed consists of embryo, and surrounding the embryo, the primary endosperm nucleus undergoes division and it forms the endosperm, which is a nourishing tissue, embryo nourishing tissue. Anyway, this is the entire thing, the entire process is called the fertilization, and fertilization happens twice. It occurs twice. First, the fusion between the male gamete and the female gamete. Second, fusion between the second male gamete and the secondary nucleus. This is called, twice it is undergoing, twice it is happening. That is why it is called the double fertilization. Double fertilization, and this seed will germinate and give rise to the plant, and this is the vegetative growth. After completion of vegetative growth, it comes to maturation and it gets maturity and produce the flowers. Once again, this cycle occurs. This is called the life cycle of an angiosperm plant. I hope you have understood well about the life cycle of an angiosperm plant. In the next session, we'll discuss about different life cycles of a plant. Goodbye.